Krishna tells him, you're a fool. Oof, that's not a nice way to express oneself, but Krishna knows what he's doing because he's telling Arjuna, this is nescience, this is ignorance. Why I'm challenging you? Because you challenged me with knowledge. You spoke big philosophy before. Big Panditji. Oh, Panditji, you spoke big philosophy before. This and this Shastra and that logic and then Dharma Shastras. You spoke so much about Dharma, but it's actually foolish because all that Dharma, where is it now? Can it help you where you are now? Can it help you get you out of this grief right now? No. So what is the value of all that knowledge? It's just information. Therefore, you are not wise. You're a fool. Krishna is now being Guru. You can see that. He's removing the ignorance. He's helping us see the ignorance for what it is. The Lord said, you are talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor the dead condition. So this is very interesting. Prabhupada is very, very deep here. So he's saying one who is learned is not only when the body dies, but even when it's living, you're crying. You're crying not only when the body dies, that's what most of us do, we lament, but we also lament when the body is living. So you see, the problem is not with the body, the problem is with you. Because when the body is alive, you're also lamenting, and when the body is dead, you're also lamenting. So what's the problem? The problem is not that the body has died. The problem is with you, that you don't understand the process of life, that you're lamenting for everything. And Prabhupada called this Sudra. Sudra means one who laments for everything. This is Sudra. So he's saying the problem is not with death. So the problem is you don't understand the process of life. Just see. And what is the problem? And what are those problems of life? Prabhupada was saying that the other day. Birth, death, disease and old age. You haven't understood these as the process of life. Therefore, even when the body is alive, you're lamenting. So take the time to understand these things, Arjuna. That's why I'm chastising you. This is not worthy of the grief that you're experiencing right now. You are just torturing your own self using your mind. So if you want to get out of this situation, you need knowledge. Right now you only have information. You are not wise. Therefore, if you relate to life from the spiritual platform, from that dimension, one becomes wise. Because there's 3 levels of reality that he relates to, not only the body. So indirectly, devotees, Krishna is telling Arjuna that you only related to the body when it died. You never took notice of the body as it was changing every day. And if you took notice of the body, you would see it from the time it was born. It's a constant change towards death. But from the bodily perspective, it looks like it was growing. It looks like it was maturing. It was dwindling. It was producing byproducts. So you never noticed all those stages of the body. That's why if you look at life, if you look at birthdays, you can see that you're one step closer to death. And we're celebrating, oh, happy birthday. We celebrate it, it's joyous because we want to honor the person. But we also have to accept that as much as that is joyous, is 1 year closer to death. Isn't it? So the body is constantly dying. We only become aware of that when the body stops, completely ceases to be. Then we see, oh, okay, now I noticed it. But you didn't notice it when the body is constantly changing. That person is a wise person who's able to see that the body is changing right from birth. It's birth, disease, old age, it's definitely moving towards death. And then when death comes, then it startles you. So what you're actually lamenting is your emotional attachment. So therefore he's telling Arjuna, you haven't got your emotions in order. You need to address yourself at the emotional level. You haven't taken assessment of your emotional self. You're just living life being pulled by the senses, pulled by information, pulled by this and pulled by that. Somebody who's actually wise is somebody who's also contained, he's able to control his emotions. So this begs the question then, who is the controller then? Because right now your emotions are running wild. You're lamenting, you stopped fighting. Look, it's affected your whole life. This one event has affected your whole life. You're willing to go begging, all these things just because your emotions are in trauma right now. So Krishna is begging the question from Arjuna, who is controlling this, Arjuna? Who is the controller? Because this is what knowledge is. And Prabhupada gives this beautiful definition here. Let's see this. He says here, as explained in the later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. You see? What is the definition of knowledge? To know what is matter, to know what is spirit, and who is controlling both. That person is in knowledge. That person is wise. So he's telling Arjuna, you are emotionally distraught now. Who is controlling you right now? Are you aware of the mechanisms that are controlling you right now? Then you can't say you have knowledge, because you need to know about matter and spirit. Now you only know about matter. You don't know about the spirit. Therefore you don't have knowledge. You only have information. Devotees, you see how deep this is? Therefore he's telling Arjuna, one who's wise is always looking for the controller. And because we are biological units of knowledge, then who is the controller of this information? Who is the controller? And this is why in human society we're looking for God. Because in Sanskrit the word is Ishvara, Isha, Ishvara, the controller. So we are always looking for who is the controller, where is God? So you see, even in practical life, it's connected to the search for God. Just by practical experience in life. And that's what happens to us when nothing can help us out in the material world. Who do we turn to? That means that we've exhausted all our levels of knowledge in the material world. Now we need to look for the controller. That's why look at this definition. That knowledge means to know what is matter and to know what is spirit and to know who's the controller of both. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satam, ubayorapi drustantuas tvanayas tattva darshibi. That for one who is tattva darshi, one who wants to know the truth about life, then he studies what is matter. Na sato, that which is not permanent, matter. Na sato vidyate bhavo, he studies the bhav, the nature of that which is not permanent. And then what else he does? Na bhavo vidyate satam, and then he studies the nature of that which is permanent, the spiritual. Ubayora api drustvantas, and by studying that, one who understands the truth about life, the process about life. Wow, isn't this amazing? See what Prabhupada says here. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology, but he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme is even more important than religious formalities. Yes, dharma is important because it gives morality, and morality gives stability to society and politics. Without morality, we'll be like animals, right? We already... Sometimes we see that some of them still have one leg in the bush. So without morality, there's no system, there's no stability to society. But we can't do what Arjuna is doing. Think that because we're doing rituals and religion and traditions, that is going to give us the answer to the spiritual level of life. No, we need somebody who's from that level to explain it to us. That's what Krishna is doing to Arjuna here. He's saying you're conflating the both ideas. And this is proof how attached we are to the body, that we've even brought in religion to the bodily level. That because religion suits my bodily wants, my bodily pleasures, my bodily desires, therefore I accept it. So what you attach to? You're not attached to religion, you attach to your bodily comforts, pleasures and securities. Wow, that is the fact of life, devotees. And that's what Arjuna is saying here. And this is why Krishna is saying the spiritual experience is so powerful, so rewarding, so fulfilling, and so satisfying. Don't bring it down to mundane religiosity, where we're bargaining with God just for our comforts, pleasures, and securities. So, because we are the center again, we're doing it all because we just rooted on the bodily platform. We actually have no interest in Krishna. We have no interest in God if we cannot satisfy these things. So do you see the strength of your religiosity now, your morality now? Why? Because it's not giving you the tools of how to handle life. It's only giving you your comforts, pleasures, and securities. It's not giving you the tools of how to handle life. And Krishna is making this very clear to Arjuna, that if you have wisdom, if you become wise, then you'll see that nothing has died. But because you don't have wisdom, you're only seeing from the bodily level and you're arguing from the bodily level. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to you, and it's disturbed your emotions to the point where you are in grief right now. Do you see this, devotees? Let's see what Prabhupada says here. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should have not posed himself as a very learned man. So just see what Prabhupada is saying. Because you are only relating to Dharma from the level of the body. You are not relating to Dharma on the level of the soul. But Srimad Bhagavatam does. It says there, Savai punsa paro dharmo, Savai punsa paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshade, ahoitike apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. That if you want to be satisfied, yayatma suprasiddhati, if you want to be satisfied and fulfilled from the level of the soul, yayatma suprasiddhati, then savai pungsa paro dharmo. You have to do para dharma, the higher dharma. You can't just do the ordinary moral dharma that Arjuna is arguing on and expect to get the same result. So you see how we have treated ourselves with religion. We actually attach to comforts, pleasure, and security. And we've brought in religion to provide that. Therefore, our real attachment is not to God, but it's to comfort, pleasure, and security. This is the hard reality, because Krishna is making Arjuna see this. He's removing the ignorance from his eyes and making him see this. Let's see what Prabhupada says here. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. So devotees, this is a very important point Prabhupada is bringing up, that wisdom is not about scholarship. It's just information about this world, knowledge. But when it comes to practical life, knowledge doesn't work. We need wisdom that works there. And how do you get wisdom? Well, Krishna says, 10.10 Bhagavad Gita, Tesham shatata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadadi buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. For one who connects to me with devotion, then tadadi buddhi yogam tam, I give him the understanding. I give him the understanding. Tadadi buddhi yogam tam, to connect with me in yoga. Yena mam upayantite, how to come to the spiritual dimension, how to relate on the spiritual dimension. So it's not about scholarship. Wisdom is about revelation. By the heart, the Lord reveals the spiritual dimension to you and the practices that is required to connect there and live in that state. So Prabhupada continues, the body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. So Prabhupada is saying here that if you are bodily centric, if you live your life just on the level of the body, then this is going to impact you and the way you conduct your life. But there are three dimensions to life: the body, the subtle body, and the spiritual body. You have three bodies. But if you're only relating to life from the physical body, then the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, ego, and the spiritual body, you're not relating to life on those platforms. You're incomplete. Therefore, lamentation comes, because you don't have full knowledge, partial knowledge, and you want to experience full truth. That's foolishness. That's why Krishna chastises Arjuna. You're a fool, Arjuna. With information, you're trying to live life just with information. You need wisdom for life. Information is not going to do. Prabhupada goes on to say here, therefore the body is not as important as the soul. So you see, once you connect to the spiritual dimension of reality, then that has more importance. The external expression of that is just the body. But the person has not died. The body has ceased to be only. The person is still existing in the subtle body and in the spiritual body. So who has died then? The person has never died. And that he explains in tomorrow's verse. And therefore Krishna is saying, spend more time understanding the soul. Spend more time in life understanding the spiritual dimension. Because that gift nobody else has. No other entity on this planet. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now that you have come, Atato, to this human level, inquire into Brahman Jignasya, the spiritual nature, the spiritual identity. So this behooves us as human beings to, because we are knowledge seekers. Can you imagine you come to the human form and you have no idea of such a dimension, the spiritual reality, and you leave your body and you pass on? It's futile. You have not completed the full human experience, the full human potential of what a human being can understand and process as life. No other entity on this planet can do it. So what a gift that is, and you've never explored it? Let's see what Prabhupada says here. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body. So it's interesting, Prabhupada ends here, regardless of the condition of the material body, because it's constantly changing, only at the time when it ceases to be. That's the only stage you become aware of it. Otherwise, we're not. And Krishna is dropping a very powerful hint, which we'll explore as we move on, that understand your purpose. The only way you can transcend life is to understand your purpose. Once you know that everybody is put here on this planet to do something, we have an obligation to the spiritual realm. We have an obligation to the spiritual world. What is that purpose? Have you found that purpose in life? Unless you find that purpose which is based from the spiritual dimension, not from the bodily dimension. The spiritual dimension gives you that purpose. Unless you find that, the subtle level and the bodily level is all going to trouble you. You're going to be lamenting for everything because you're relating to life from that level. But if you connect to the spiritual dimension, find your purpose, then you can see an ordinary man like you and me blossom into somebody extraordinary.